Welcome, friends and foes, survivors and killers. Today we're going to be starting a whole new series on the channel, Pixel Predicts, where I give my guesstimations about what's coming in the next big DBD update, and then I'll go back to it once it comes out to see how many I got right. Today we're going to be talking about the big anniversary mid-chapter, or the Great Perk Update. 39 perks have been announced for reworks, buffs or nerfs in this coming update, and I want to talk about what I think that update is going to bring for the game. So let's start with the perks, and I'm going to begin with one that behaviour's been telegraphing for a little while. I think SelfCare is going to get nerfed. Don't get me wrong, I don't think SelfCare needs a nerf. In fact, I think it's one of the more reasonable healing perks in the game, and certainly not on the level items like medkits. But behaviour does love their stats, and in this forum post by Mandy Talk, she did say SelfCare is one of the most commonly used perks by players who escape a lot. We call those people high MMR monsters on this channel, by the way. We also know SelfCare is the third most used survivor perk of all time, behind only Borrowed Time and Dead Hard. On paper, everything's pointing to a SelfCare nerf, so I'm interested to see what behaviour has in mind for it. Now let's talk about a killer perk that's almost certainly getting nerfed, Pain Resonance. They might just reduce the gen regression numbers on many gen regression perks, but I think on Pain Resonance we're going to see something a little bit different. I suspect that Pain Resonance will have the screen, if Pain Resonance hits a generator that the survivor is working on, removed. So it doesn't force you off the generator, and doesn't block the generator with Dead Man Switch. Even half a year after Portrait of Murder brought the perk into the game, survivors still don't get off gens to stop the screen of Pain Resonance even when they know it's in the game. I use the perk a lot, play against it a lot when I play Survivor, and nobody ever plays around it properly. Which only really became an issue when Dead Man Switch got buffed, because that one dipstick taking the gen got it blocked for almost a minute for everyone. That play pattern, despite it being pretty easily avoidable, is probably going to get removed just to turn down the combo's irritation factor, and might be why Dead Man Switch isn't on the list of perks being changed. Now for my next prediction, and one that I think might be a little bit more popular. BBQ Chili and We're Gonna Live Forever will maintain basically the same effectiveness they currently do. Their blood point bonus is likely to be removed, but their blood point bonus will be moved to the base game instead. Behaviour knows that barbecue is mostly used for blood points, and also that blood point gain is a massively important thing to almost everybody who plays this game. If their goal is to reduce the people using barbecue so they can give other perks a try, the logical step is to get rid of the BP gain. But if you just halve how many blood points the average killer player gets in a match, there will be blood in the streets. So adding a base kit incentive to fresh hook each survivor would keep people happy, while freeing up that all-important perk slot. And if barbecue gets that treatment, I'd be amazed if We're Gonna Live Forever doesn't get it too. Another perk that's likely to get nerfed due to incredibly high usage rate is Spine Chill. And I think they're going to change it not by messing with things like the vault speed, but by making it not work on undetectable killers. It's no secret that stealth killers in this game kinda suck. The best one is Wraith, and he's still pretty shit, but Sadako, Pig, Myers and Ghostface can all be found commonly languishing at the bottom of tier lists. Spine Chill is a very common perk, and it happens to make these killers' days really damn awkward for no real good reason, because it allows them to be detected through undetectable. Yes, there's the counterplay of look away as you walk to a gen, but then you get the issue of 2 of DBD's 5 stealth killers requiring you to look at the survivor to use their power, alerting them with Spine Chill anyway. It's been a thorn in the side of stealth killers since literally forever, and I'd be amazed if it didn't sort it out. Now let's talk about perk buffs. Specifically one perk that the devs buffed a little while ago that I think probably isn't used as much as they would like. And that perk is Lucky Break. I think Lucky Break is going to get buffed to its PTB value of 2 minutes. When it first got buffed, behaviour really wanted Lucky Break to see play, and it's already been buffed once to no massive use. And these balance teams are stubborn to a fault. If something that they want to be played isn't played, they'll just keep buffing it till it is. Look at Blight's add-ons or Wraith's base kit. Both just kept getting buffed and they have pick diversity. I suspect Lucky Break is in for a similar treatment. Along with straight perk buffs or nerfs, I think we're also going to get a bunch of top-down reworks that totally change what a perk does. I think the likely candidates for this are Tinkerer, Monster Shrine, Knockout and Soul Survivor. There are some perks that are just conceptually bad designs that have been kept virtually useless either by neglect or a conscious decision to stop them ruining games. As a result, there are some perks that either can't or probably just shouldn't be straight up buffed, in order to make them good. And these are likely to get more comprehensive reworks. Knockout is just annoying instead of effective, Soul Survive makes you get your team killed to get value, and Monster Shrine's value is so minuscule it's like you're running an empty perk slot. Tinkerer is a weird one, but I believe it's being reworked because on the perk gallery behaviour showed us of all the perks being changed, Tinkerer wasn't just on there, but it was out of the top. The rest of this list is in alphabetical order, suggesting to me that Tinkerer will have a new name starting with an A, which would put it at the top of the list above BBQ. And if Tinkerer is getting a name change, it gives every reason to believe it's getting a full gameplay change too. With all these perk buffs and reworks, I have a sneaking suspicion something's going to go horribly wrong. And I think we might be in line to get a boil-over style new perk that will just completely brick how games are going to be played for a couple of weeks before they hotfix it. This could happen to a number of rework perks, but the ones I think we should be keeping an eye on are Saboteur, Tenacity, Monster Shrine, and Knockout. This could be the result of a perk being reworked poorly, or a perk that should have had a rework not getting one and just being buffed from the stratosphere instead. Perks that we should worry most about are perks for Survivor that prevent the killer from turning a down into a hook, like Saboteur that forces the killer to slug, or Tenacity that only benefits down survivors. Or for Killer, perks that incentivise either camping the survivor like Monster Shrine or leaving them slugged like Knockout. If these perks get drastically buffed without these considerations taken into account, we could have serious issues on our hands, just like we did with the freshly buffed Boil Over. And whilst on the topic of perks, I want to talk briefly about what I think the meta is going to look like once these changes hit. For Survivor, I suspect the meta is going to focus more on generators than it did before. Within After Dead Hard, Survivor chase times are going to get a hell of a lot shorter, meaning that efficiency on gens are going to be more important, and one perk notably missing from the list of changes is Prove Thyself. And with item changes also unlikely to be relevant, I expect Prove Thyself from toolboxes with Sprint Burst to avoid getting into chase too often is going to become a new meta for Survivor. This becomes particularly likely in the event that slowdown perks become less powerful, so time on gens is actually more efficient because it's less likely to get lost to a Pain Resonance or a Pop, for example. Similarly for Killer, I think the writing on the wall for a new meta based on the perks that are not being changed. There are 3 notable omissions from the Killer perk change list: Deadlock, Dead Man's Switch, and No Way Out. Those perks are inherently mostly okay, maybe aside from Dead Man's Switch and a couple of the killers, but when they're used together, I think we're in for a very noxious meta going forwards of, well, camping a lot. Because all those perks, as long as the gens get blocked, don't care how close you are to the survivors or whether you're applying pressure. You can just camp. So I expect we're going to see the rise of killers like Artist or Dredge using Dead Man's Switch to camp hooks by blocking gens from far away, then heading back to hook. And Deadlock and No Way Out to reward this killer for just standing right next to a survivor and letting the others try and do gens. If slowdown perks and pop are going to be less powerful, so that ending chases to get a pop or a Pain Resonance hook or applying pressure for ruin is less powerful, I don't see why killers are going to bother with chases if they can just use perks like this to secure kills by camping instead. But there is one saving grace I believe we're going to get from this camping meta that I fear we're running headlong into, and that is BT, or some variant upon it, becoming base kit. The solo queue experience sucks, and behaviour knows it. Getting unhooked without borrowed time feels absolutely garbage if the killer is close. But survivors will do it if they think you've got DS, don't know where the killer is, or just really want their unhooking challenge done. Maybe adding the entirety of BT to the survivor's base kit without any drawbacks, and giving the team effectively 20 perk slots would be too much and would allow survivors to run some ridiculous perk combos while still having the safety of BT. But a version of the effect becoming base kit would probably be fine. The perk is used so much because it's borderline necessary for the game to function, so it becoming base kit seems natural. And one last prediction kind of relating to the perks up before we move on a little bit. I think we're going to see kill rates take a big hit, for a couple of reasons. The first one being the nerfs to slowdown perks, meaning that the gap between the high tier killers and the low tier killers is only ever going to get bigger. And in part because NOED is going to get probably reworked, meaning that the ability to scab a 1k or a 2k at the end of a match with NOED is going to be much more difficult to do. This will mean that 0 kill games, or maybe 1 kill games, will become more common results for Killer. Now I've covered the perks, there's a few more things I want to touch on before we wrap up on this mid-chapter. The first thing is the Twins rework / balance update. I don't think it's coming this mid-chapter, I'll be totally honest with you. The Twins are a complicated killer. Sorting out their issues will require a lot of work, both in terms of design and actually coding them and sifting through their mountains of spaghetti code. The last mid-chapter brought us 2 killer reworks, and this upcoming one already looks rammed. I'd be very surprised if they had enough time on their hands to also do the Twins update in time for the mid-chapter. It's far more likely to be later on in the year once they've had time to give them the attention that they need. And that's good, because the more time they spend on the update, the more chance they have to listen to Twins enthusiasts like Linksy and myself, who know how this killer works, and can give useful feedback like we did in our big discussion video that we made together. In terms of what I think is likely to be coming, however, I think we're going to see artist changes. Nothing big, nothing crazy. I think we're going to see minor balance updates just to polish her up a little bit because she hasn't been changed since release. I suspect, specifically, we're going to see a small nerf to her base kit and buffs to her ultra rare add-ons. Usually a killer gets an update in the mid-chapter after their release. An artist didn't get one. Pinhead got his in the Portrait of Murder chapter release, so he got his early, and Sadako hasn't had hers this time around yet. But I don't see a world where Carmine doesn't get one before Sadako. She's a pretty oppressive zoner with about 5 good add-ons and the rest being various shades of garbage. So I reckon they'll go with small nerfs to the base kit, like bird idle duration or movement speed while holding the birds out, instead of hitting add-ons like they did with Pinhead. And Behaviour loves to buff continuously underused ultra rare add-ons. They did it with Twins and Nemesis, so I think they'll do it with Carmina as well. Garden of Rot and Iridescent Feather are both pretty terrible add-ons, so I fully suspect a Carmina update would include buffs to both of them. One more thing to talk about before we move on to talking about the tomes, in terms of perk and killer diversity. Because part of Behaviour's stated goal for these updates is to shake up the meta and give killers inside something new to play with. And I suspect that's kind of going to be a double-edged sword. Because I think the meta changes for perks are going to be relevant. We're going to see big changes to a lot of perks, so we're going to see lots of new perks that we didn't see play before, seeing changes. What I think we're going to have a problem with is killer diversity. Because again, if we're going to see slowdown perks take a hit, if we're going to see no-ed take a hit, that's just going to make the low-tier killers so much less playable than they've been before. Because right now, the gap between the bottom-tier killers and the top tiers has never been smaller. You run 4 slowdown on Myers or 4 slowdowns on Ghostface. Obviously, it won't be as good as running 4 slowdowns on Nurse, but it's more comparable than a no slowdown Myers and a no slowdown Nurse. I think to compete at higher MR brackets or to have easier games, we're going to see more Nurses, more Blights, more Spirits, and maybe more Artists than we've had in a very long time. So if your goal is to look for killer diversity with this big update, I think we're in for the opposite of that. I think we're in for more matches against the same 3 or 4 top tier killers. And last but not least, let's talk about the lore that's coming in the new tome in this mid-chapter, because, well, it's me, what do you expect? My first prediction is that Jonahs Law is going to actually be, like, okay. I know I rag on Jonah a lot, I know I hate his base lore, but I think Behaviour knows that his base lore is rampantly unpopular, and are going to try to do some damage control for him. They're going to try and polish him up a little bit, and make him more palatable to the average reader. I think they're not going to completely succeed, because Jonah's a really hard character to fix, but I think they're going to try, and the end result is going to be inoffensive. It's not going to make anything better, but it's not going to make anything worse. It's just going to sort of exist. You know whose lore I think is going to suck, though? I think Blight is going to be just so bad, because Doors Unknown, the last story we got for the Blight, not last Halloween, but the one before that, was not a particularly good story, and it indicated perhaps a level of confusion or uncertainty as to what they wanted the Blight to be and how they wanted to present Talbot. I think we're in for more of the same. I think we're in for just more Doors Unknown that's just not very impressive, and yeah, everyone out of ways to really talk about Blight, at least for a very long time. So I think we're not in for anything worth remembering when it comes to the Blight's lore update. Well, that was Pixel Predicts the Great Perk Update. Do you think I'm going to be right? Do you think I'm going to be wrong? Is this entire series a total waste of my time? Well, whatever you think, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. While you're at it, be sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel and want to hear more, and you can check the links in the description for my Discord server, my Twitch, my Twitter, my Patreon and Ko-fi links if you like the content deserves your money. And big thanks to newfound partners of the channel, Wraith Energy, who continue to support what I do. If you want to purchase any of their sugar-free and delicious gaming supplements, use the link in the description to find their website and use Pixel20 at checkout at 20% off your order. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.